Anybody got a conflict at all? None heard. I guess we can move on to the next. Approval of the minutes of the 4th of June. So everybody got them? Got them. Any questions on the minutes at all? All quiet. Okay. Devlin, do we need to have a motion on that or no?
I'll move they be approved as read.
I'll second.
Okay. Dana, second. Good. Sorry, what was that? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Approval of agenda. There's just one thing I'd like to add at the end. Is what's next for our committee? Is there something we should be looking at going forward? You know, everything's been so disrupted for so long that a lot of what we thought was normal isn't anymore. And I think we should maybe spend a few minutes, you know, seeing if there's a direction we can go to be helpful. Anybody got anything else? Okay, I guess next thing is the business park. Pat, do you want to take that where we are?
As you all know, the township did purchase land. I believe it's 54 acres contiguous with the Fergus Industrial Park. And this developing a land business park strategy is one of the steps that was recommended in the economic development strategy to in terms of move those forward. So McSweeney had been asked to do a quote on what that would be and what that would look like, and the various elements that would take. And this is what they had provided. Obviously, they had provided it much earlier in the year, but COVID has held things up. But we would like to get back to that development of those lands as we are still getting inquiries for land, and still, and I believe that those will probably ramp up as we come sort of out of COVID. So this is what we're here to discuss. Everyone got a copy of it. So it's open for discussion.
Just to add to that, we budgeted
Bob, just for clarification, that you.
Sorry, Bob?
No, go ahead, Brett.
I was just going to say we budgeted for this in the 2020 capital budget, and we want to start on servicing the industrial land in 2021. So we have lots to sell and get businesses up and running in 2020. So now's the time to move ahead with this so that we can get going on the servicing next year.
Bob, did you have something?
No, it was more just a question for Pat or Brett on clarification. That you referred to was what we did on our strategic plan, right? So the funding for land development strategy and a capital budget, Brett, that you said there was 50,000 set aside. So that is it. My
Yes,
only question is, okay, that's helpful. And what I didn't know, Pat, from this was, is it looking at the whole municipality again, or is it just now, because they titled it the business park strategy, the 54 acres. So I didn't know if they were going to look at land use across our municipality.
One of the things that they are going to look at, not necessarily, Bob, they're going to look at it's really related to the 54 acres, but one of the things they are going to look at is they're going to do a market and location analysis, which does take into account the broader municipality and the broader region as well. So of things that are available and may lead to some additional discussions on that.
Anybody else with a comment? I just have, I read the whole thing over, and it was done on the 7th of April, and we live in a different world now. And I think what we should start off with is an initial meeting on the second page there. Exactly what is it we really need to look at? Because a lot of stuff that's it's in here, it's all changed. Any thoughts?
Just having spoken with McSweeney yesterday, because they are going to be revising it in terms of timelines, et cetera. As I said, we are, 6 months behind where we would have normally been with this. They are aware that we live in a different world, and it will be done. It will be viewed and completed with an eye to what the new world is, not what what our previous situation was.
Mm-hmm.
And having read it through, a lot of it all still applies.
Yeah, I think
it's just a different lens.
Yeah, the local labor force analysis might have a slightly different look to it, but otherwise I would agree, Pat.
Dawn, I have a question.
Yes.
So if you can't see my face. So I guess the one question I had around the document was just the scope. I mean, Pat had mentioned that the scope is not just the industrial park, it's outside the industrial park and more municipally and regionally. But the question on access is an issue, like access to First Line, access heading south, going over the bridge on Scotland that has limited weight capability. So what scope of that is going to be included in this study?
I'm not sure that my read took any of that stuff into consideration. Yes, Andy?
So council did approve a transportation master plan where we've
Yes.
looked at some of those analyses of how we're going to be able to get traffic around. But the challenge, obviously, for the Fergus Industrial Zone is just the fact that it's tucked up in the northeast corner with not many linkages. I do think as we looked at these properties from the different business parks and employment lands in the past, we recognize that that's one of the limitations of the challenges with this property. There are others in other locations that have better, but at this point, from a financial perspective and getting lots on sale, this was the most economical. And if you recall, the Watson study did that analysis of the number of different locations and recommended that this property is the initial, recognizing there are some limitations in it, and we're going to have to get through that from a long-term transportation and how we connect those businesses outside of our community.
Yes, Brad? Brad?
I could just, I gotta hit the mute button. Yeah, or unmute. If I could just add to that too, the county are about to do a transportation master plan as well. That's gonna look at county roads throughout the county, and I think they will use our transportation master plan to help with that and our land use plan. And First Line is getting paved in the 2021 capital budget. So we are looking at, we're definitely going to phase this industrial park. So we start with an extension of Dixon Drive and take it out a little further, create some lots on a cul-de-sac likely, and then in the future it'll connect to First Line, which is getting paved. So there'll be improvements that way. If you're on the east side of Fergus, there's already a lot of truck traffic using County Road 16, for instance, to go north and south. So they do have access over that way.
16 and the second line gets, you can see the trucks that go down the second line it's huge. I see it all the time. Like these rigs that got 20 axles on them are going down that road. It's like they're huge things. But yes, Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Don. I like your suggestion about initial meeting because things have changed a bit. And one of the things I noticed when reading this report is I want to make sure that we're not duplicating what we've done already in the strategic plan. Like a lot of it is consultant speak, and as a consultant, I can read through that a little bit. I really like using McSweeney. I think they're really, really good. I think I think he fits with our culture here. They've done a great job on our economic development strategy. They did a great job on the county strategic plan. I really like the idea of working with them. I think that's great, but I really think that this has to be so practical. It has to be very tactical. We don't need another consulting report. I really want it to be focused on the business part, like the one we're doing, because we got to do it right. And I want to make sure that there's no gap between what they're recommending at the end of the day and us moving to action. Like we can't, we have to get to the action part. And I think they're the guys to do it. I really do. But I really like the idea of an initial meeting with Don. What does this project absolutely have to do?
Yeah.
And none of the other stuff. Like we got to get rid of any fluff that's there.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about is it's not only the fluff, it's the cost of the fluff. Like I'd rather have the cost going to putting signage up and getting some engineering work done that people can actually buy 2 acres and get at her. You know, that's even if it is next spring, but let's do what we need to do for this and you know, get it focused more.
And I'm not at all concerned with having that discussion with them day one. Say, look, this is what we need at the end of the day. Help us get there. And I think we will. They're really great to work with. They're when it comes to economic developments for municipalities, people point to them all the time. Like they do really good work, and I like the fact that we're going to partner with them. But it's our job to scope it down, and I think we have the right group here to help us do that, and just really cut through the extra stuff to get to exactly what we need.
Great. So Kelly, do you think we need to you want this part of this group or a committee of this group to meet with them as well, just to or do you guys want to do it like just the municipal employees guys?
No, I think my personal personal impression of that is this is the right group to do it, and I'd like us to, and I think the whole group, you know, we pulled this group together for very specific reasons, and I think that we could all, like, we work so well together. We have really good working sessions. I picture the whole group being able to do that, and they're so good at facilitating. I think we're going to be able to drive to tactical actions really quickly with this whole group here, which is not usual when you have a big group like this, but we're really good at it. And we've demonstrated through COVID that we can get to action real quick if we have the right kind of structure and the right kind of facilitation. So I think that would work great, Don.
Okay. So anybody yes, Brett, you get Brett?
Well, I just want to say in the meantime here, we've got we need to get on with retaining McSweeney. So we're going to have to go to council with a report after this meeting on Pat and I'll do it up for the 28th in order to, I guess, extend the scope of their services from having done the strat plan to now doing this employment plan strategy. So in order to get them on board, we need to go to council on the 28th of September to get them rolling, and then we can have a discussion here at this group at the October meeting. So hopefully the council members on this committee can carry the vote to extend McSweeney's contract.
Yeah. So if we passed a motion to extend it up until the end of that project initiation meeting, is that the way it should happen? Like, because a lot of stuff after that is what we'll be talking about at the meeting itself.
Yeah, Pat's got a draft resolution.
At your mic. Your mic's, there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I just have to call it up. So the motion is the Economic Development Task Force recommends that council engage McSweeney and Associates for the development of an employment land strategy recommended as a necessary resource under the Economic Development Strategic Action Plan.
Okay, I guess the question has to be is, do we, that sort of accepts the whole thing? I'm just wondering whether we should,
Doesn't, actually, I don't think it accepts, and it just recommends that we hire McSweeney to do something. I don't think it,
okay,
and actually says accept this quotation, so.
yeah. Okay, any discussion, anybody? Yes, Bob?
I just had a question about the second page. We talked about an investment marketing plan. Do we see this on how to market? One of our counselors has been talking about marketing Center Wellington before we even had land to market. So are we planning on putting these two together in terms of a marketing plan as well as the strategic as part of Kelly's action plans? Or are we keeping these separate?
Just to respond to that, the information in some of the information that they will generate from some of the items in this quotation will lead to that marketing plan. It's the kind of stuff that we need to know it as a background to that marketing plan.
Okay.
Sort of the research to base that marketing plan on.
Okay.
But
Yes, Kelly? Yeah.
sorry though, Pat, through you, Don. But at the end of the day, we don't want another body of work that needs to be done after this is done. So McSweeney's got to go as far as we need to go to be able to flip the switch and do the marketing. Because my only concern with that is I know how some of these things go, and we need another piece of work done between it. So we got to talk to McSweeney about getting us to the point where we've identified who we're going to market to and what we're going to do, and then we can carry the ball from then on. Because I don't want us to have to go to another consultant to do some sort of marketing plan. I don't see the need for it. I think we can get, and I think that's what Bob was getting at. Like, I think we need to be able to get some real clear action, so that we can just pull the trigger on what we're going to do.
I agree 100%. It's and I think in that initial meeting, I think that's where that needs to happen. You know, just so that we get it focused on what we want at the end. And I agree with you 100% that it just needs to be done so we can get the signs up and yeah. Oh, there's Steve. Hey, Steve. Brett. Yes.
I just want to say, I think the intent of providing a marketing plan for these industrial lands in particular, or business park, I guess is what we want to call it, is clearly part of what we expect McSweeney to do. At the council table, there's been this general discussion about quote unquote marketing the township. But I think for McSweeney's exercise for this land, we need to market this land because we have a budgetary interest in getting the loan paid for and in reinvesting it into the next stage of development. So we want to make sure we're getting, the right lot sizes for the people that we think we're going to be the buyers here. My guess is after COVID, that means the lots are smaller than we might have thought of, because businesses need smaller space that they can expand into a little bit, but probably can't afford the cost of buying 5 acres. So we're going to look at the land's got some challenges in terms of adjacent wetlands and things like that we have to work around. But I think from the concepts that we had developed years ago at the staff level for this land, we're probably looking at smaller lots than we were 5 years ago.
The beauty with the municipality, if somebody wants to buy 2, they can be amalgamated easily, right? That's the real beauty of it all. So, okay, does anybody else have anything? Do you want to read the motion again, Pat? Just
Sorry, Don.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sir, Steve. It's hard looking around the whole screen here.
Yeah, Steve was very. So, quick question on this, because I came in a few minutes late. Did we have a cost associated with this?
Not that I know of. I think this is a proposal that was on the 7th of April, and of course, everything just got dropped.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is we're talking about on the second page of it.
Yeah.
There's a project initiation meeting, and that's the one I think is really important that we're involved with, along with staff and this whole group actually. That we get them focused as much as we can, so that when we're done with this, there's no more studies need to be done, or get them to get the marketing set up. But all that I think has to happen in that first meeting. Then you can get them to price it. I don't think they can price it. I don't think they can price it. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're really at the beginning phases, because I definitely think there's a financial analysis and costing. We really want to dive deep into that and find out what is the costs to, what are the lot sizes, what's it going to cost, and what do we need out of each piece. A bit of the marketing for sure, but there's also things that I just noticed. I feel like we've already done quite a bit of it. For example,
that's the purpose. That's the purpose, Steve, of getting that initiation meeting, because we have a whole bunch of stuff done already. Okay. And I would think at the meeting that we have with them, it would be good to have Dan at it, because he knows the money and could maybe help us just to move it on. Yes, Brett.
But to be clear, and I think Steve missed this part of the discussion. We budgeted 50,000 in the 2020 capital budget. I believe it came out of the OLG funding that goes for economic development. And, I think the idea, we know that what's in this proposal fits within that budget. And the idea that we talked about early on is, let's get that initial meeting and refine what we want to do, but we want to go as far as we can. So, we'll spend the money that we have in the budget.
Okay, no, that's fine, and I just wanted to follow up, kind of make sure that we had a budget, but that just when I read through it, so this is probably they're kind of like off the press, typical quote, and now we can kind of narrow it down and say, okay, well, hey, we've done a lot of this market analysis. What do I do? And then they can refine it and give us a new quote back, or kind of an official price. Is that the idea then?
I think that's the idea. Andy, yes. Andy, yeah.
Yeah, just thanks, Don. If those members that worked with McSweeney on our strategic plan and economic development recall, they made a proposal, we did an RFP, we got them in. They kind of said, here's what we typically do. And then we sat down really early on and went through what they thought we needed to do, what we wanted to do. And then if you recall, after we got to some of the key action items, we changed about how the next part of the process was going to go, about how we got feedback and how we challenged McSweeney to push the envelope on some of those things. So, that's how I see this is we want to get them going, get them in. Let's have a discussion with everybody around the table, and then we can really focus in on, what is exactly what would we expect the outcomes on. To Pat's point, really, this is saying we want to bring this forward to the committee today in order that we can get it to council, get them on to hire them.
Yep.
Typically for this, we would have to do an RFP out and get a whole bunch of firms. But to Kelly's point, we felt we worked really well. McSweeney is one of the top economic development consultants in the community and around, and therefore continue on with their scope of work from our strategic plan into this. And let's not waste any more time of fuddling around with RFPs and who do we want to hire, who don't we. This is who we want to bring to the table. We know they're strong. We work with them well, and we want to get them on the table and get started in October.
I just want to note too that I was discussing this with Ian yesterday, and he indicates that Eric McSweeney is going to actually be working with us on this project as he's their industrial land expert. Which, to be honest, gives me a whole lot of comfort in the knowing that we're going to get an excellent product, because Eric really knows his stuff. So,
good. Yes, Steve.
Just to follow up then. Okay, can you read that proposed motion that'll come to council again? I just want to make sure it kind of because if we're gonna lead it, I guess, or speak to it at council, I want to make sure it kind of flows with our conversation and isn't given like a broad brush of cost. It's just, here's where we're going.
Your mic, Pat. There we go.
Let me just get it up here again. It's a problem with working with just one screen. The Economic Development Task Force recommends that council engage McSweeney and Associates for the development of employment lands. I'm going to actually change that. I think it should be a business park strategy, recommended as a necessary resource under the Economic Development Strategic Action Plan.
Should it say, and work within budget allocated? So it doesn't sound like, just so that council might ask the question, well, where's the budget, or what are we spending when we're, should it say, and work within the budget allocated within the capital project, so that we can go forward without having to go back to council for, you know, if it's 30,000, then we don't have to worry about it.
Typically, that's what I would include as the recommendation to council, that it be within the budgeted amount.
Okay, Brett.
We're gonna have to write a staff report that picks up on this recommendation, and the recommendation, the way Pat's worded it, comes from Dan, from what we need to do at the council level to have McSweeney's scope of work or contract to having done the strat plan extended to include this work.
Yes.
So the language may not seem perfect, but it's what we need to get to council to have to meet our purchasing bylaw to have their contract extended.
Yep.
We'll make it clear, and we'll work with Dan that the budget is 50,000 for the work.
Okay.
And as Andy said, we'll work with McSweeney at this committee level on refining the terms of reference. What they've given us so far, is a pretty general 2 or 3 page scope of work.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. Anybody else? No? Okay, can I get somebody to make a motion that Pat, they have our support to move that on to council?
I'll move that.
Bob, seconder, Dana? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. There you go, Pat.
Thank you. It's a relief, actually, after knowing that we were sitting on this for the last 6 months during COVID, to actually move this forward again. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. Yes, Kelly?
Can we just ask members of the task force who can come to the meeting to come? Because that makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. If it's not on our regular time frame, if you know how sometimes they send out, you get 2 or 3 dates that work, and try to get as many as we can out to it, even in the next couple of weeks or 3 weeks, just to just so we can get McSweeney rolling.
Kelly, you meant the council meeting?
Yeah, I just mean at the council meeting, to have members of the task force at the council meeting. That's
Okay.
really important.
Sure. Is that
When
the
is
28th?
that?
28th.
Kelly, we'll have to see how we do that because we're still in Zoom meetings. So just how we haven't had, just because we've only been bringing in delegations and others watch on the live stream. So it might be worthwhile to have Dawn as a delegation speaking in support as the chair of the committee, and he
Sure.
can zoom in.
Sure. That's good. I'm good with that if everybody's okay.
I believe we did that for the Economic Recovery Subcommittee as well. So.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did get, it was
Dawn
really
can
good.
mention other members are watching on the live stream. So
Yeah, exactly. You never know who's listening. Anyhow, okay, good. Well, that's good. Move that ahead. And so if you could work with McSweeney to find out a date that's going to work for that, and we can get the meeting going. Be good. Okay, anything else on that from anybody? We're good, okay. Next thing is Economic Recovery Subcommittee update. As everybody knows, back in, I guess it was April, we started this subcommittee, and the subcommittee got a few things done. We got the township put $50,000 up, along with the Waterloo Wellington Community Futures, and that was a successful program. I think there was 8 people took advantage of it? Is that the right number?
17.
It was 17. Okay, good. Anyhow, it's just 17 people we helped. Has anybody got any update on any of those people? Are they still cooking along? Or are they?
I could tell you, a lot of the funding went to local restaurants to help them. It's been a particularly difficult time for restaurants in Ontario, and we allowed the funding to be used for the establishment of patios and to get those up and running, to allow the restaurants to have some form of income when they were limited to the amount of people that they could have inside their establishments. So a lot of them, we've had some very successful patios this year. I think that if anybody has gone downtown in Elora and Fergus during this summer, they'll see that the patios have been packed. It worked very well. We've also had one of the recipients was a new business that is just in the process of opening up. It's an ice cream business in downtown Elora. So she's been very thankful for the funding, and I've been in touch with her several times. So all in all, the program was very successful in getting our businesses up and running to be able to function and to get some revenue during this time. The next phase is might be even tougher on them, but at least they were able to achieve some income during the summer months.
Hey, Pat, can you highlight some of the other stuff we did, the signage and?
To be honest, John, most of the things that we had on the economic recovery plan that went to council have all been completed. The last item that was to be completed is the Support Center Wellington signage, which I'm hoping went up yesterday. Shutting down traffic and installing it on the Trestle Bridge has been, to be honest, no small feat, given some of the other construction challenges we had in the area, with the hospital opening and with some challenges on BD Line and Colburn. Shutting down traffic on County Road 18 has been a challenge, but I'm hoping that it was installed yesterday. If anybody sees it, please send me an email. Just to reiterate the Support Center Wellington message that we've had out. We did distribute decals. We've distributed to the businesses. We've distributed magnets out. I still have some if anybody needs some. We have had an 8-week shop local program where we had 2 winners, $50 gift certificates every week. That we were thankful to have the Rotary Club support us in providing those prizes, which was wonderful to have. We have assisted initially, a lot of it was assisting the businesses in getting the patios set up, getting the roads closed, talking to the BIAs about what they wanted to see and how they wanted to function over the summer. It was our Shop Local website that we did in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. Those were a lot of the things that we did obviously with the Economic Recovery, Center Wellington Economic Recovery Support Program, which was the funding of up to $3,000 for businesses that applied, was the big item in it. There is one thing that we will still do, which is the Witness Space Program, depending on what our various space looks like in the downtowns. I have to say right at the moment, we have not seen any major vacancies occur. In fact, one of the businesses that we wanted to use as a Win This Space location has actually, new businesses opening in it in downtown Fergus. So I think we've been fairly lucky at this point, and we'll continue to monitor that. And if we need to ramp up that program to fill some of our storefronts, we will do so. So that's just a little bit about what the program has been doing.
Yes, Andy?
Thanks, Don. I just want to speak about the downtown support that our staff, I just want to give them a huge shout out, working with the two BIAs all summer long, trying to do coordination and be flexible. The closure of the streets were no easy feat with trying to get county and the township and everybody were lucky with the bridge closure. But that's been very successful for those and anybody that's shopped downtown on the weekends or came to the downtowns. I know this past weekend, talking to a few people that came through, walking through Victoria Park and the gorge and that, couldn't get at 2 o'clock in the afternoon into a patio on Saturday and Sunday, just because everybody was so busy. And so that's great news. We've agreed with the Elora BIA to keep the patios open until the end of Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving weekend will be the last weekend with the cooler temperatures. I know Dorothy's been, who doesn't sit on this meeting, Dorothy, Rob, and Pat have been really connecting back and forth. And, the times I've driven downtown Fergus and stopped in, seeing people on Provost Lane using the patio tables and eating at their local restaurants and bringing their lunches or dinners to the seating area has been great. And now we're already entering in discussions with the Elora BIA through their initiative of looking at street closures for their Christmas shopping 2 kickoff nights. So things that we did as part of the recovery are now looking to become sort of the norm of what they want to be looking at for the future. So, which is exciting.
And I just want to indicate when it comes to the Fergus BIA, we did things a little bit differently than close the streets. We tried that initially and it needed to be a different in Fergus. So we created a communal patio on Provost Lane, just closing that small section of the road. And it has worked fantastic. People have been very happy with it. We've actually had, I understand the Horticulture Club Society was meeting there on Tuesday mornings because they could meet together and social distance at the same time. So that was really great to see. And the Fergus BIA is actually going to use it as a jumping off point to create some of that communal space that Roger Brooks talked about in our Fergus, downtown Fergus action plan, and really spend some time enhancing that space going forward into 2021 and beyond. So we're looking to make that an annual, regular kind of closure in downtown Fergus and make it a real community sort of hub and beautificate with some beautification around it. I don't know, Kim, if you have anything else to add about downtown Fergus.
Kim, go ahead.
Oh, just that we're currently working on the St. Patrick Street and the parking lot that's on St. Patrick Street. In the park place that's on St. Patrick Street by the curling club, we're just getting some quotes to green up that space a little bit. And then some quotes for some tree trimming and tree removal and extra pots and that, just so that we can Provost Lane can kind of lead into that back parking lot so that area gets fixed up, because the south side of town is all really beautiful with the river walk. So we're just trying to equalize for the businesses on both sides. I think that's about it.
And Kim, I do believe that the Fergus BIA is considering extending some of their Christmas shopping ideas and looking at some closures.
The last weekend in November and the first weekend of December, we're going to do the Thursday and the Friday night to extend our Christmas shopping. We're discussing closing the street for it, but that's kind of up in the air because a lot of the businesses don't like having the main street closed. So we're just trying to figure out social distancing things and still having activities on the street to entertain people.
That's great. Yeah, I think it was a great program as well, and it was interesting how both towns had it, and great initiative of the township. And it was also good that the one in Fergus was only 3 weeks long. It wasn't working. It's funny because it's interesting because the two different towns, and it works wonderful over in Melora. I was over there a couple of Saturdays ago, and it was like, holy smokes, the people was amazing. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that was one of the things we knew we had to be was flexible, and if something didn't work, pivot to something else. That's been has that been the byword of the whole COVID experience is
Yeah.
being flexible and doing what works and moving on if it doesn't. So we were able to, luckily we were able to do that in Fergus.
So just a suggestion, that committee looked at the downtowns, and this sort of goes into what I was talking about. What's next is, should we think about maybe keeping that committee going and making sure that next year we've got the restaurants out on the street, and that we sort of maybe help develop some policies for the township if they'd like, to try to make sure this happens on an ongoing basis, because I think it's been really successful for the merchants and the restaurants on both places. Yes, Dana?
Yeah, just to comment on that, I agree with the fact that we should maybe continue discussions. I think once all of the different subsidies come to an end, like the wage subsidy, the SEBA loans are run out, I think that's when we're really going to see businesses hard hit. Once patio season ends, which coincides with some of the ending of the other programs, that's when it's going to be the most difficult. One of the things the Canadian Chamber of Commerce launched is the Our Restaurants national campaign to support local restaurants, and they're doing a few different things to ensure supporting shopping, buying local, dining local, but also reaching out to elected officials and looking at policy changes. So I think that's something that we as a committee could be very influential in helping those businesses. But I really think we haven't seen the hardest hit yet, because everybody is living right now on subsidies and relief programs.
I have to say, I would agree with Dana.
Yeah.
I think we need the committee. I agree with Don that we should keep the committee going, because I think the winter situation with COVID, any potential surges, is going to require us to look at how we support those businesses during the winter months when it's not quite so easy to be out on the street or social distance when people are unfortunately going to have to be inside. But there are a couple of interesting initiatives that places like Edmonton have done called the Winter City Strategies that ensure people can get out into public spaces in wintertime. So those are some of the things that we might want to take a look at as well.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else got a comments on that? Sorry.
I'll just make a comment on in regards to the restaurants. There were some surveys done, and StatsCan and the Canadian Chamber participated in, and they are actually putting out the number that 60% of all restaurants will close in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's how dire the situation is in that regard.
So, I guess with the subcommittee, should we maybe have another meeting to see what we think we need to do to help? Because it's like an impending disaster coming here. Can we get ahead of it? We probably won't get ahead of it, but is there something we can do to help? I guess is the question. Kelly?
Yeah, through you, Don. I do think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, one of the, when I'm talking to some of the other mayors in the county, they don't have this group like we have here. And, when I talk about what we've been able to do in Center Wellington, they're really pretty impressed by how quickly we're able to move. And it's because we've had this group already set up and we're used to working on jobs and investment things for the last 5 years. So this is a really good practical group, and I think it does make sense for us to continue to meet. What can we do to promote business? What can we do to be innovative and nimble and do whatever we can? I mean, the fact that we have the chamber here, the fact that we have the BIA here, like this group has been able to kind of quarterback a lot of really good and practical actions that they're not going to end. Like, we're going to have to keep doing that, and we're going to have to do whatever we need to help our businesses kind of get through this and kind of succeed in the future, where some regions won't be able to do that, but we have this group here. So I think it's great to kind of sit down and say, okay, so this we have to continue to help our businesses, and what real actions can we take that's going to make a difference, and what should the chamber be doing, what should we be doing, what should the BAs be doing, and just again taking that very action oriented approach and clarify roles, responsibilities, and use this group to kind of coordinate action taken and tracking what we're doing in different areas, and making sure that balls aren't being dropped and we're not stepping on each other's toes and things are actually getting done. So this group is perfect for that.
Yeah. Okay.
John, would
Yes, Nina?
it make sense to do a bi-weekly meeting? So this task force meets monthly, correct? And then maybe on
Do a
every
bi-weekly. Yeah, that's a good idea.
so that
That's
there's
a good
two meetings a month in total.
The other thing I was going to ask you, are there other sectors that are imminent trouble, like the restaurants? I mean, the restaurants, we all see that's big trouble coming for sure. Is there any other specific ones that are
From a retail perspective, the ones that have not had commercial rent assistance are in trouble. Some of the, I think our smaller businesses have been much more agile and flexible, and they've been able to adapt more easily. But you'll see, I follow Retail Insider, and a lot of the very big box stores, they're shutting down in the malls and the big areas. I think our community in general has been much more agile and flexible and resilient than in larger communities, but definitely where rent assistance hasn't been available or made available, that has an impact for sure. And and we know of other businesses that are absolutely thriving throughout this. The businesses that were set up or jumped onto e-commerce platforms and to digital marketing have fared better, and there's lots of programs there to support them as well. So that's the feedback I could provide.
okay? Yeah, I know you have access to a wealth of information, and it's current.
Mm-hmm.
That's my concern is can we get ahead of some of this stuff?
Don, I can speak personally. Hotels are in trouble.
Yeah. So is there something that the economic development to do something to drive people to your place?
Well, no, we're in Guelph, so I don't think it's part of this committee's role. So.
But I think to your point, Bob, any travel, tourism, hotel, that's the hardest. Those are definitely the hardest hit industries and where a lot of money is being spent right now. And again, those are probably strategies that we need to look at. And how are we going, being that we are very involved, tourism is a big part of our economy here. What are we going to do to help?
Yeah, I think we've been lucky, a little bit lucky, that people have decided to do sort of within an hour's drive or 2 hours drive of the GTA and come out to places like Elora and Fergus. It's a perfect way to market. That's why our downtown is busy, is that people are sort of tired of being cramped up at home and are willing to come out. So maybe we do need to focus on that. How do we keep it going?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a travel committee that's part of our chamber. It's local travel agents, and they are reconvening to focus on how to keep business local from a travel perspective and inbound tourism to safely encourage people to come into our community. So again, that's something that we could engage from a chamber perspective with economic development or business recovery and provide some resources as well.
Thank you, Dana. Andy?
Yeah, just a little bit of good news. So on the Labor Day weekend, last year we had just over 200 people through our tourist information building. And this past long weekend, we had over 550 people through the building. So we are seeing that local tourism. We have not done a lot of promoting about tourism in our communities just because of that. Those that don't want people coming to the community and others, it's kind of just happened. So our look is, as we look at tourism for 2021, is to, focusing on kind of the spring and saying when people do come back, I do think to Bob's point, a lot of that has been very much day travel. We've seen the restaurants and that busy, but then people are packing up and heading home at night. So, those businesses that look to have that, as we've been working on from a tourism industry, and trying to have, how do we have the overnight stays, which is more spending in our community and supporting the bed and breakfasts and hotels and things of that nature is something we need to strategize moving forward and building on our partnership with RTO4. So that may be something that we want to bring RTO4 to the table as we talk about that for an economic recovery as well. And we've been having meetings with them over the summer at the staff level, and they're very keen about making sure that Center Wellington comes out on the right side of this for sure.
Mhm.
When it comes to our small retail businesses, I've been into quite a few of them over the last little while, and a lot of them are saying they had their best August ever because of that need for people to get out, but wanting to come only within an hour or so drive of their home. So unfortunately, Alora especially has been able to sustain itself quite well during this time, and hopefully retail businesses will be able to stay open even if we do see a surge, because you don't spend that much time in a small retail business like you would in a restaurant where there's sustained time spent.
Yeah, just I mentioned at the start that we had a bumper year. Like, this is the business is just stunning. The worst part of it is it's all over in 4 weeks. So those 3,000 or 4,000 people coming up here every weekend and going into town, that all ends. So it's that's a big hit of numbers of people coming here. So I don't know how to solve that. Yes, Kate?
Yeah, actually, I was just, those of you who know me, I've I don't always necessarily agree with all the directions of the government and some of the restrictions, but one of the things I find so important is this committee, no matter what happens, this is when we're going to realize the strength and value of community and being in this small town and having this committee in action now. And I really, really think that we need to continue these actions. I like it that you're saying, bi-weekly meetings, let's keep track of it.
Yeah.
As a councillor, just seeing what's happening and knowing over these, your community, that's when you realize through struggles, you realize how important your local community and the actions taken there. So I think this is really important. So I'm glad to hear what's happening there.
Okay.
It starts at home.
Kate, if you were good.
I just wanted to make a really quick comment on kind of when we were talking about making sure that the restaurants and tourism industry are okay, because obviously they're the ones that are hurting the most, is I think there might be some opportunities as well, not just on the downside of COVID, but on some of the shift that's happening in people looking to move to more rural environments and the shift in the labor force, everything going online. You guys know I haven't been in the area for very long. I've only been here for 4 years, but my network is in Mississauga, Brampton, and I've never seen so many people talking about moving out into different locations and, oh, where are you? Oh, Center Wellington, what's that look like? Like, I think there's opportunities outside of just trying to save the downward shift from COVID, but there's also a massive shift happening that could be beneficial to bring people to the area if that's something that we're looking to do, to actually move and create more residents in the area and have more people moving rural with the online working environment that is happening.
Thank you, Kate. So, Pat, why don't you and I get together, see if we can figure out some dates, and let's get this started like right away.
Sure. We were doing fairly well with our Thursday morning meetings, and we can pick a start date for those and get back to doing those again.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it, and if you could send it out, then we can see if we can get the good numbers show up. Yeah. Good. Andy?
Yeah, Don, just thinking of the kind of the recovery, it wasn't the full committee. We kind of had a subcommittee of that going, and then just thinking forward with the Sweeney work, that it might be useful to have two subcommittees, kind of one with the business plan piece and then one with the economic recovery piece. Kind of, I know everybody's time's busy, so I don't want to saying that we're going to need you every Thursday and every other Thursday and things of that nature. So just maybe some people can give some thought, maybe email Pat and yourself and just say, my interest would be on the McSweeney part, and then my other part would be somebody else may be interested on the economic recovery that's been sitting on it, so that we don't. We know this is you guys are all in your own businesses and working, so we don't want to make sure that we are overburdening you as well, and making sure we can coordinate all that and get the right people to the right meetings.
Okay. All right. So Pat and I'll see if we can get that started, and maybe send out a little questionnaire. Which one would you like to be on? That might be
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that? No. Okay. Next one is County of Wellington Economic Development Update. Kelly?
I guess I'm on the hook for that, aren't I?
Yeah.
We had we meet. We got back to meeting as a committee because we take July and August off for our committee work. So we met yesterday at the county, and we talked a lot yesterday about is there anything that the county can do to support the festivals that are really getting hammered, specifically the fall festivals across the county. And we had a good discussion. It's a real tough one because we can't be money bags to every nonprofit group that's doing festivals or community events. Like, we just can't do it. And so we have to be consistent across the board. But we also recognize that some of those big festivals bring a lot of money into our local economy. So it's not an easy one. Because we had a request come in for the year and fall fair to support that, and we said we weren't going to go ahead and do that yet because we need to have some policy to make sure that we're consistent across the whole county. Because we say yes to one thing, how do we say no to something else? Because then we're going to say, well, the second thing isn't as important to our community as the first thing. So we have to approach it in the right way. So our staff are going to go back and we're going to try to figure out a way where we can work with the local municipalities on identifying what local festivals are bringing in jobs that are bringing jobs and business to our towns, and see if there is anything that we can do on that front. The day before that, so on the Monday, we also had a county pre-budget meeting to talk about the impacts of COVID on money in and money out for the county. And one of the key themes that came out of that meeting is councillors, right now we have our tax increase sitting at 4.3%. And the only reason that we do is because that's the 10-year forecast. That was put in there before COVID hit. Well, all of us as councillors recognize that's not going to happen. So we're going to have to ratchet down the tax rate increase in a significant way. And we have significant buy-in from councillors at a county level to do that. Well, how can we in one meeting say, let's dish out some more money, and another meeting say that we have to ratchet down the tax rate increase? So we can't have it both ways. So some really difficult decisions have to be made at a county level. And I can't give you too much more update. Basically, we're in the discussion phase, and staff at the county level know that we have to put the screws to our increase, and but at the same time, we want to do what makes sense for economic development. So Mayor Bridge from Minto is the Economic Development Committee Chair, and so I'll be talking with George about what we have to do on the county level, and it'll include the member municipalities as well. We also don't want to double up. The province and the feds have come to the table with some money for festivals, and we don't want to be giving money out if they're going to be doing it. So there's a bunch of work that has to go on to provide us a little more context and a little bit more information so that we know what we're going to do. But that's where we're at the county level. The other stuff, the county CIP, it's ready to ramp back up again. We want to provide incentives to businesses who are doing good things, so that's ready to go. We're still moving ahead on trying to do some attainable, affordable housing that allows people to live in the community where they work. So that project is still ongoing. Ridewell is there was a huge dip when COVID hit. No one wanted to be in a shared car with anybody. But that's starting to go back up again with the new mask order. Now you have to wear masks in taxis, and that'll cover off our ride well. But the numbers for that are starting to go up. The Owens, the bus, the transportation hub from Owen Sound through Ferguson, Laura, into Guelph, and into the GTA. That's something that we're going to be leveraging to make sure that different businesses know about it. So County Economic Development will spend some time on the marketing and promotion, making sure that people know that transportation. So they decided to go from Owen Sound to Fergus, cross over to Elora, and then to Guelph. So it should cover all both of our towns. So that's good from people who don't have cars and need to get around some other way. So moving ahead on that. A lot of the stuff that we're doing as far as the taste reel and things like that at the county level have been different this year, but all those things are still in play. So again, the conversation that we had is at the county level is very similar to what we talked about here, is what can we do to help our local businesses. So that's where we're going to spend some time on that front. And I know the economic development officers are involved on their own to try to do things consistently across the board. But one of the things that has been really good during this COVID time, it's really brought the 7 municipalities together and working together on a lot of different things. So it's brought a little bit of a different culture out of necessity that we're working together on things. So hopefully that can continue when it comes to economic development. I don't think anything else, there's anything else that has to be talked about on that front, Don.
So just a thought is, does the municipality and the county have facilities that they can maybe make available for these groups trying to put something on? Like, I'll use an example. In Fergus, if there was the field where the camping is, that could be available for a group event that was in a tent, or something that's easier to control than something inside. Now, it's only good for the spring and fall and summer, but anyhow, just a thought: is there some municipal or county facilities that could be used?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the county facilities. I know from an approach to that, the county will be expecting the towns to take a leadership role on working with the groups. And then they'll come to the table with, if the towns, like one of the things that they talked about, if a town doesn't want to support a particular festival or event, it's going to be really tough for the county to support what the town won't. So the county is going to take some direction from the member municipalities on this front. And I would imagine the scenario that you laid out, Dawn, about a facility, that's gonna follow the same kind of trajectory. If the town is gonna support it and they think it's important, then the county are more apt to come to the table.
Yeah, the example I'll use is the Gamble Barn in Elora gets used with the festival. Like, there are other facilities around the county that could be used, not obviously in the wintertime because they're full of sand, but in the summertime, are there big facilities like that could be used for some of these smaller festivals, so they get enough real estate to spread out. Anyhow, just a thought.
Yeah.
Yes, Andy?
Yeah, so Spencer, our culture coordinator, has been redeployed to our parks for the summer. Just not a lot of work for him to be doing, and needing to try to keep our parks good. So he will be starting back up shortly in his area and reaching out to the groups. He has been doing that anyway. I can tell you that even not just our indoor, but also our outdoor organizations, the challenge being is the provincial and the health unit regulations that they're setting for these gatherings anymore. And right now with the provincial push of not reopening or holding anything new, and also with the health units, we were looking to open our arenas at middle of September, or actually this week, when we met with the user groups in the summer. And given all the regulation rules that they have to abide by to get approval by the health unit, we're now opening up the arenas until the first week of October. just because those groups have so much paperwork and procedures and policies and tracing to do that, I think it's still a fairly big challenge that outdoors it's only 100 people and indoors it's only 50 people unless the building's a little larger. So, I think we have a little bit of, probably what I would suggest is for some of those groups, that's what we're going to be trying to see what that looks like for the spring. I know Spencer, who works for Riverfest as well, is already looking at what they may be looking at doing for Riverfest and has been reaching out to the Scotch Festival and others already to say, what is that going to look like in 2021? Some folks are saying that we're not anticipating seeing larger gatherings than 200 to 250 people till 2022. And that's going to be a significant challenge for event.
Yeah. So some of the stuff like that's, and I think they talked about it. You can have 50 or 100 people in a room, and maybe that's the solution to some of this festival. Is you have an ice rink, and then you have a tent outside that would be another room. And so you could sort of multiply on that. Anyway, just throwing some ideas. Yes, Dana?
Don, to that point, we have looked into it just because obviously the chamber, we are large event planners. In a banquet facility, if you've got multiple rooms, you can have 50 people in one, but they cannot all be for the same event because they end up switching rooms and coming in contact with the other people that are participating in the same event. So if they are separate bookings, that is okay. What we're finding, because we have ventured into in-person events very slowly, we've had our Drive-In Movie Awards of Excellence, and tonight we have our local biz night at the Raceway, which we have 70 people registered for, and as well as owners at the Raceway. So we will not exceed the 100 people, but what we're finding is just the confidence levels. We're gauging in our biweekly newsletter. We're putting out surveys to ask about confidence levels, about attending in-person events versus hybrid versus virtual. And, there's still not a lot of confidence in people attending in-person events. So that is going to take some time. And I think through Thanksgiving, end of October, we're really not doing much in person because we want to see if there is, a blip in cases. And again, because that will also have it'll have an impact on people's confidence levels.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting over the summertime when the campers started coming back. Nobody would go off their lot. Like it was the same thing, nobody would go off their lot. And then you would start seeing a couple couples, and they'd be one couple would be on one side of the road, and the other couple would be on the other side of the road. So it's that confidence with everybody. And it's like we talked with the subcommittee is everybody's terrorized of this stuff. And it's sort of built into our DNA right now. Just we got to be careful everywhere we go. So it's anyhow. Okay.
Sorry, Doug. Yep. I just want to give an update on the transit that Kelly was mentioning. The Owen Sound to Guelph bus service did begin on August 31st. Our council will be asked to support the bus stops that were in both Fergus and Elora at an upcoming council meeting. The bus runs from Owensyne to Guelph twice a day, and the price is very, very affordable. It's $5 to go from as far away as Arthur to Guelph. So Fergus and Elora, people can go to actually between the two cities or between Fergus, Elora, and Guelph for $5. So it's a very, very affordable service, and it links people with Guelph Transit or Ridewell or Go Transit or even Via Rail. So it really is a great addition to our local transportation network that gets people down to broader forms.
Does it drop people off at the train station?
It's going right down to the transit terminal in Guelph.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, good.
Don,
Okay.
it's more of an interest because we've had some discussion at the CEO's table. Do you have many people that typically would, come up here for the summer and then head south that are challenged with not having a place to go after your place closes?
Oh yeah, I mean everybody, every senior, me included, where the hell are you going to go this winter? It's the same story. Everybody's the same. And even if, like, we've been looking at Portugal or Italy or, Costa Rica or like wherever you want to go, it may be okay right now.
Yeah.
But what's it going to be in February when you want to go? It's such a game.
Well, just with the announcement, the U.S. borders closed, U.S. Canadians closed to October, and readings I had this morning, they're suggesting.
Well, you can still fly down as long as you quarantine yourself. So it just means that somebody can't take the car down; they have to go down and rent something there if they're willing to risk that. And frankly, there's so much down there that I don't really want to risk that. So they're all in the same boat. There's lots of people. In fact, I have a staff member that goes to Phoenix every winter. Got to stay here now, and it's anyhow, it's just where we are, So okay, so the other thing I added in was discussion on what's next. We've been talking about what's next with the COVID stuff and the downtowns and that. I guess I just want to initiate a discussion on, is there stuff we can start looking at for jobs, for retail? Anyhow, just is there other stuff we should be working on? Is there other, another business park? I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. I'm looking for suggestions. We're just getting back at this, so I'm just trying to get everybody's mind in. Okay, so what else can we do? Yes, Andy?
Don, I think it's a great point, and maybe what we need to do is maybe at our October meeting is bring back the economic action plan and kind of go section by section of that, and then looking at some specific actions that we think we're now ready to tackle. We've done a few of them. But I think really the stuff that Sweetie and this group kind of focused on, a year and a half ago would be really important to kind of come back to that and say,
that's what I want to do is I think we need to we've all got derailed here. There's no question we're all derailed, and we need to try to get back on track because, with what Kate said, people are coming up here. There's going to be smaller plants come up to get out of the city, to get more real estate. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity. We just need to make sure that we're ready for them. As part of
Don, could I suggest that what we do is we'll have Pat resend out the electronic version of the economic action plan?
Yeah.
And people could review that, and then we could spend time at the next meeting kind of go
that's
section by section and revisiting it to saying, here's a couple of things that have been on hold, and let's get moving on those actions.
Yeah. Kelly?
One of the reasons this group is so good is because we're focused. And my only thing is we have two big things here that we have to get right. And the one thing is the business park. The other thing is what Kate was talking about. I really liked what she was talking about. It's like, I'm kind of getting tired of how can we survive this? We have to be thinking beyond that. We have to think about what things are happening that are a result of COVID that we can actually excel at. And we're seeing people, and Kate did a great job. We're seeing a change here. People are moving here, and I've talked to a couple developers already who are moving from Guelph, and they want to do really interesting things in Center Wellington, both Fergus and Elora. And so if we do two things, I think we really have to make sure that we stay focused. One is getting this business part going, and two, how can we leverage our strategic advantage of what we're seeing as a result of COVID to make sure that we're getting ready for people who want to move here, and how are we building this up? So, and we have those two subcommittees that we're going to move ahead on. I'd be very cautious. Somebody would really have to convince me that something beyond those two things are things that we have to focus on right now. Because we have enough to handle with those two things.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying we have hands on everything. I just think of, I'm just thinking of retail. I'm thinking of, I was cautioned on what I say on property. Anyhow, there's some areas that we may need to, it's sort of long-term stuff just to make sure it's moving along on the sides. It's not actually have real hands on it right now, but just to make sure some studies and stuff are underway so that we can meet at the other side.
Kelly, it's Bob. I agree with you that we need to focus, but I think this group has the ability to go from detailed action plans to also some long-term strategies, and do some of that work simultaneously and leverage the people that we have. You know, the priority sites update, I think Brett and Pat identifying priority sites and then having people go out and talk to them. Business people are willing to invest, and I think leveraging the strength of this group, either individually, you know, on behalf of the group, is something we could do, as well as the two priorities that you said. The other thing is realistically, we're 2 years away from another election, and I think we need to leverage the strength of this group now, not knowing what the political scenario looks like in a few years. And if we want to get things done strategically and put in place long term, you know, where's the absorption in the town? Where do we go next? How do we develop the south end versus long term versus, you know, having everybody cross every bridge? So I take your recommendation that we got to nail the first two, but as long as we can nail those two, we got to start handing some stuff off to the next group too.
Yeah. So Andy, if you bring that, you know, the report we had, let's bring it back and let's just take a look at it, and we'll just see where we are. It might not be a lot of things that we do, but just to take a look and see if there are some things that we can initiate to move them so that down the road they'll join up with us at the right time.
Yeah, and it's probably a good time as a refresher as we kind of refocus on what's that look like coming out of this and building for the future. So, you know, we can do that. We'll get Pat to send that out electronically for our October meeting, and then we can have doesn't need to be the whole meeting, but we can just have a refresh on it and see if there's anything that pops up to us.
That's good. Okay. Has anybody got anything else? Silence. There's silence everywhere. Okay. Well, I guess we'll, next meeting will be, do you know what the date is, Pat?
Our next Economic Development Task Force is the first Thursday in October, which I believe is October 1st, which is not that far off, to be honest. So,
it's actually the 8th on the calendar.
Is it? Great. Then it's October 8th. That gives us a little more time to engage some of these things. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll adjourn the meeting.